guys, welcome back to the channel. I thought I'd shoot a series of videos of kind of like a buyer's guide for the 108, 109 body car. As you know, I'm sure you all know that I'm a real big fan of these cars. I think it's a kind of really undervalued car. It's kind of like a sleeper, and you can still pick these cars up at kind of reasonable price. They are starting to go up a little bit, but still you get a lot of car for the money, and I've had probably half a dozen of them over the years. And so I thought I'd do a buyer's guide, and so we're going to start off with bodywork, where they rust, you know, where there's a lot of obvious areas, but there's a few areas that I think someone contemplating buying one of these would like to know about. So let's get started. I'm going to jump from the actual car here to the car on the rotisserie to really go into detail of all the little crevices and the problems areas that you want to keep an eye out for. Let's go straight to the front here. The fenders, if you're going to have rust, it's going to pop out around the headlights, mud stuck in the bucket there, the headlight bucket, and moisture and salt and stuff rotting it out. This one actually, before I repaired it, had a really rotten bucket on the passenger side, really rotted out, great big hole it was. So, but the good thing about the 108 is these are bolt-on fenders, and that's a real bonus, unlike say a Pagoda or something like that. So it's not the end of the world if you have some rotten fenders, and the rest of the car is fine. So you can pick these up at a reasonable price if you maybe go to a pick and pull or something like that. Before I open it out, you know, just look at that classic front. I mean, it's a beautiful, even a 5-year-old could tell that that's a Mercedes. You know what I mean? That's what I love about this. They're so obviously Mercedes, and the level of chrome is just right. It's just a wonderful car, and I think I'll just drive these for the rest of my life. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get you in the engine bay. Brake booster, obviously drips of brake fluid over the years of people topping it up, messing the paint up. This one does have some paint flaked off there, and obviously it's exposed to moisture and all that sort of stuff. You know, water comes in, and there are drain holes that I will point out on the other car there for water to naturally drain there. And also the subframe main area, make sure that debris has not stayed down there and caused rust issues around that mount. The some of these cars have a cap that goes on this guy here for that very issue. You know, I think the Pagodas came with that. Moving over to the battery side on the 4.5, underneath the battery again, any battery, I mean the 6-cylinder it's on this side, but the 4.5 it's this side. Any spilt battery acid can disturb the paint and then cause rust issues. So other than that, like I say, I'm sticking with bodywork stuff. Other than that, those are the areas of the engine bay. We're going to talk about the hidden bulkhead chamber there on the other car. I will show you that. It's not something you can easily check when you're looking for a car for sale, but it's something you want to be aware of. I think if you're seeing issues in other areas, you want to be extra suspicious of that area. The corners where the hinges are as well is an area where debris sits, and if they're not cleaned out on a regular basis, that can cause issues. What I tend to do, once I've washed, I get my airline and blast that out. It helps dry it out and push any filth and dirt out of there. So we're going to stick to just the left side of the car actually. So obvious place to check is the front rocker area, and we're near the splash guard there, because what we've got is a drain hole here, goes in behind this chamber here, and there's a drain hole. I've got this trim off at the moment, so you can see there's a drain hole right here. If this gets blocked, then we're going to have rot issues here in this area. And I think this is a good time to switch over to the other car and show you in more detail what we've discussed so far. Right, starting back on the front again. So we've already covered the headlight bucket area. As far as the bumper support area, this is another area. This is an empty box in there, and so some moisture can build up in there, and also there are drain plug holes at the end here that can get clogged up, and then so sitting moisture in here can rot these out. And obviously, I mean, this is a bit of a pain to change out because you have to weld a new one in. They are available as a 2-part section from Mercedes, but Anyway, so that's an area you want to check. There are little pinched drain holes here that you can clear with a screwdriver. And also there should be drain holes in the center member as well. And also look for damage to the center member, people running over curbs and stuff like that. I mean, mine's got a little dent in, it's not really a big deal, but if they get a real wallop, you might have issues. On the inner fender here, this main box section here was spot welded to the inner fender. So if you can imagine, on the inside there's a join here, and water obviously naturally comes into the engine bay and thrown up from the road, can run down to this low spot, and there's another drainage hole here. Again, should be cleared with a screwdriver periodically, a thin blade screwdriver or even airline, because this is a vulnerable area for moisture trap. So that's that. Also moving up to this inner fender well, the bolt section where the fender bolts on, you want to a lot of the time you're going to have a lot of this underseal on there, so it's a little tricky one to check, but do your best to check up in this area, see if there's any rotted out stuff there you need to pay attention to, because it's a kind of a rust trap up there. Now, away from rust for the moment, see this box section here? When you're checking a car, it's a really quick visual check, and put your finger underneath this section, this crease point here, because if the car's been in a front end hit, as you can see, if it's hit, it's going to crease in this area. It's just going to. And so you're going to see or feel a crease to the body here. This is perfectly smooth, so we've had no front end problems on this car, not been in a crash or anything of that nature. Let me show you the other side. See that there? You can reach that from inside the engine bay, that nice gentle curve there. That's really good. So just for reference. Now moving on to the inner splash shield area. Splash shield is coming here, obviously. This box section can be seen on the inside, and there are drain holes. There's one up here where water is designed to run out and run down and cascade down this panel. Also back here as well, the box sections open up for water to come down. Let me just show you the results of not clearing the drains. So this one, obviously it was a terrible mess. So water stuck here, gotten stuck behind the fender that I spoke to you about, and just rotted all this thing out, especially because it's sitting up here. That's classic, because this is the bolt area here, and this is where the drain hole's supposed to be. So leaves and garbage and all that got stuck here, rotted out, and went in, and then eventually rotted this out. Now this might be rotted to other reasons because of a blocked drainage hole inside this box section. And also, spy here, you can see someone's welded a plate on here. So when I remove all this underseal, I'll take care of that and check that. I may even cut it out and do a flush mounted patch here. As far as the wheel arch, front wheel arch area, from bumper to front wheel arch, I think that's all I wanted to talk about on here. And obviously while you're in here, this is obviously from my stand, the subframe mount is underneath here. You might have a little cursory check here by jacking the car up a little bit and letting the subframe hang. It'll expose a little bit more, and you might see the subframe mount in need of replacement, and that can be, it's a fairly straightforward job, but if you're not doing it, it can run into some money. That plate there is a reinforcement plate I welded on because of the 6.3's extra weight. That was done by Mercedes on many of the cars. This didn't have it done, so I just did one. That's 1.2 millimeter of plate steel there, so that reinforces the area where the steering box sits. And this is an area of attention you might want to check where the box is sitting. You might want to check all this area around here for any cracks or corrosion or poor repairs in the past. And here's another drain hole, by the way, just below. This is also an area to check when you're inside the engine bay, because obviously the brake booster sits up here, and dripping brake fluid, peeling paint, moisture. This is a very vulnerable area for rust. Special attention to this area. And let me see if I can get underneath to show you another section. Right, we're literally standing where the engine is. So this bulkhead back here is where the fan blower motor is, the dreaded fan blower motor, and that's inside here. On the away from bodywork for a sec, just make sure the fan blower motor works, because this is a job from hell to pull that motor and get it and replaced and repaired. So that's a big key feature if you go to look at one of these cars. If its motor is not working, inoperable for any manner of reasons, worst case scenario, you're going to have to pull that, and that is being described as a hell job. So bear that in mind. It could be a good negotiating tool. Anyway, so we've got this box section inside here, and there's a valley here inside behind this wall, down to here and down to here, leading to this drainage hole. Normally this has a rubber bung on the top to kind of, you know, stop dirt going up and stuff, but that is an area. It's a little tricky for you to check in a cursory exam of a car, but that's something you might want to bear in mind. Okay, so here's our drainage hole. This is the chamber I'm talking about, this hidden chamber here that you probably won't be able to inspect casually when you're going to see a car, but this is an area that can be vulnerable, because if this bulkhead rots out, that's major work. Obviously the engine needs to come out to repair this bulkhead area here. Inner fender attached to the box frame. On my other car, my 4.5, what I discovered, again underneath the battery where a lot of acid gets dropped and wrecks paint and all that sort of stuff, and then it's exposed to moisture and then obviously rust in the end. So this area here where this inner fender attaches to the box frame, it's very easily for dirt and filth to gather in this area and cause rust issues. I actually cut this section out of the 4.5 and replaced it with a new piece because it had rotted straight through. So that's another area you want to bear in mind to check. Now, if there are any areas you want to talk about in the comments section that I may have missed, I'm very happy to answer any questions if I can. So we've moved up to essentially the front of the rocker. So I'm going to pop outside again and look at the 4.5, and then we'll carry on. I've had a lot of these cars, and the chrome always seemed to be in really good shape. I think it's extremely good quality chrome. But you know, it is an expense if you had to re-chrome stuff. What's nice about these bumpers, and not a lot of people know this, I don't think, but they are separated into 4 pieces. Okay, you've got these top blades. These unbolt from this lower blade. This cover plate here joins this blade and this blade together. So let's suppose then you see a car and you go, oh, the bumper's all bashed and stuff like that. Depending if it hasn't driven into the body or something, you could actually replace this blade and this blade separate from the other one. So, I know, really just a bolt-on job. But again, you've got to examine the car to see if it's done frame damage, and I will touch on that on the other car. Trying to think of something else at the front here. Everything's pretty self. This has a extra grille protection bar that was an option from Mercedes. You don't see these a lot actually. Here's another area no one really talks about. See this windscreen wiper here in this channel? There is a drain hole right below here. So again, an area of potential problems if that drain hole gets blocked and someone's left things to build up and moisture to sit. Very unusual. I've never had a problem myself, but it is something you want to be aware of. Moving on to the doors now. Excuse the colour difference from the front of the car to this, because obviously I haven't painted this, and eventually I'll get round to that, but this is my daily, so it's something I will get to in the coming year or so, and also the roof, because that desperately needs doing. So as far as the doors go, like many other cars, you're going to have drainage holes. There's 5 drainage holes on this guy. Check that, run your hand on it if there's any rust problems. Well, be very careful, because you could jam your hand into some rusty metal, but they should be all clear. That's fairly self-explanatory on both doors. We're not going to talk about all the mechanisms and stuff, that's for another video, but let's take you to the threshold plate and talk about that. Yes, I know I need new seats. So that is something I want to do. I'm itching to put new leather in here. I think it'll be awesome. So and also new threshold covers as well, those little rubber strips that go on here. These ones failed years ago. Another job for me to do. Inner rocker and outer rocker joint here. Pinch weld is here underneath this strip. Obviously you're not going to be able to remove that, but what you should do is definitely remove the carpet. It's a big thick padded carpet under there. Get that out of there and check the inner rocker, the footwell, and all around the lower accelerator pedal, and possibly inside the trans joint as well, the trans tunnel joint. Let me switch over to the other car and we'll go into a little more detail in this area. So here is the inner threshold here. This obviously is needing replacing. Here's the pinch weld underneath that plastic trim. The 6.3 has a chrome trim, and you can see some areas, a problem area here. And you really, this is the one, I think, what happened if you see a lot of rust in other areas, you can almost, you know, suspect that it's going to be here as well. This is again a bit of deduction here. There is a vulnerable area right in this corner. One of my Mercedes doesn't have a drainage hole here, but there is a drainage bung here in this vulnerable corner here. So check the corners. All right. So moving on from this area, typical rust damage here, and also being bashed by going over bumps, because this is an air suspension car on a bumpy road, and it had failed and he beat the hell out of it. So outer rocker, pretty self-explanatory really. Drainage hole should be, I think, around here, and they've been plugged up with some crappy repair. Perfect example of extreme rust. There's the jacking point, and what you're seeing is basically one of these, a box section of steel with a tube, and that is the perfect profile of the inner rocker, and that gets welded in, and so it's a kind of a vulnerable area for trapped moisture and rot. And obviously if someone's using the jacking points, puts immense stress on this. This is in line, as you can see, with the main A-pillar strength of the car, but if this tube has started to rot out, that's why they advise you really not to use these, because if this tube starts to move, starts to do this business, you're going to dent the outer rocker and do a lot of damage. I mean, even if you think you've got a good solid car, I think you really should just avoid using these jacking points unless it's an extreme emergency. You're better off on the main frame leg on the inside. There you go, got a light in there. See the box section? Completely rusted through because of moisture sitting down the bottom and not being able to escape. So that obviously is something I'm going to replace once I open this baby up. So moving along, let's get underneath the car slightly and we can have a look at where the floor attaches to the box section. All right, this is a good example, isn't it? Now I ripped this open years ago just to kind of have a look in here, so just ignore this monstrosity. So you can see, let's see, oh here we go. So this is the inner box section. This actually is an extension piece here, 4-inch extra long body extension, and you can see the floor pan is just laid onto the inner rocker and spot welded all along, and should be seam sealed and all that inside and out for protection against rot. And then it tapers off here, and then is pinch welded all the back here. It doesn't go all the way to the trans tunnel. See here, there's a kind of a lip of the trans tunnel comes this way, essentially comes this way, and then it's pinch welded all the way underneath all this seal. All that's got to be rubbed off so I can get those spot welds broken, so take this floor pan out. Now, so it's, this piece is here is to protect the lines underneath the car, fuel lines that hide behind this. This acts as a protection piece. You know, you're going to probably see a few dents in there, so that's okay. I mean, as long as it's, you mainly want to see if the underseal has been disturbed, because there's a good chance moisture's gotten in underneath this underseal and cause rust issues. So that's how the floor pan is attached. In short, I mean, it's a lot more involved than that to take it out, but that gives you an idea. Spot welded on. Let's move in back here. Again, we're going to hit areas of problems here in this B pillar here area. Okay, going back here, possibly here as well. And again, here's a great example of rotting out behind the trim, where the trim is. You're probably going to see stuff like this, you know, where the hole is kind of spread out, and you'll see it appear. Again, another jack point issue. This is kind of a complex area here of box sections and spot welds. Really, what I would say, unless you're really planning to do a lot of your own work in this kind of area, this is kind of deal breaker area. If you see a lot of heavy damage, there's still a fair amount of these 108, 109s around, so it's probably best to move on unless you are nuts like me and decide to take it on yourself. And now we're entering a real critical area of the car that essentially is the death knell for these cars if you're not willing to really bite the bullet and go for it. So let's move on. Now, let's just track back a minute. Hold on, hold that thought. Right, this is obviously a unibody car. No frame, just a unibody. It's kind of a frame, I guess, really, but not in a complete frame in the sense like a truck frame. We've got a series of box sections, arms that lead down to here, and then the frame ends here and overlaps a good, what, nearly 2 feet over this box section. And then you've got these two sections here, outer and inner, 16 gauge steel, pinch weld together, immensely strong, running the full length of the car all the way down to this section, where, think about this, then the box section is tied in, tapered in to the inner structure here, which you can see here. You can see it on the inside of the car as well, but this is good. Then that box section arches up, box member coming along, actually do it on this side, box member coming along here, and this is up box section here. Obviously the fuel tank's here, so there's a box section where it ties into this one, and you can see this, surprise surprise, got a little corrosion here, kind of an unusual area, but you can see it's kind of a low spot and vulnerable to that. So here's a drainage hole. Obviously that didn't work very well, but anyway, so that's that box section. And this is a crucial area. This is kind of like almost like a dog leg area. I say dog leg because, let's see, this guy here, where I'm mounted the frame of the stand here, there is a dog leg box section that curls round to an inner box section here and hooks round and locks into this box section. Need a lot of strength here, a lot of overlapping, spot welds, you know. And this, as you can see, because this is an air suspension car, the darn thing was sitting down on the suspension in long grass for how many years, I don't know. And it is completely rotted out this box section. Not like these crappy repairs that someone else did before. See, they've just plonked metal on metal, and look what happens. See, the inner, right, was rotten, so they just slam one on top. Terrible idea. You're just asking for it, really. So all of this is going to be repaired. So this is an area that, if you see a lot of problems in this area, give it a thorough check, because this is a deal killer. Now I'm going to jump to the inside a bit. Now let me see, not a lot of people know this, but in my adventures on this car, if you can see the jacking point here, let me get the jacking point, and they're slightly different on the back, but this will serve. Okay, so this is on the inside, obviously, so you can see that's a chamber in there, okay, and a vulnerable area for moisture. Now this is more of a maintenance issue for you guys that own these cars. What you can do, peel back this threshold plate, it just caps off, you know, there's screws or whatever, it just pulls off. Behind this wiring loom here, you can see it. Can you see that rubber bung there? Now that rubber bung leads straight to the center of this box jacking point. And what you can do is inject frame coating, or wax oil or liquid film, those things, to clean that out, not clean it out, to protect it from rust. Again, checking your drainage holes. So that's just a little extra there. Again, we're dealing with bolt on front fenders, so they don't have this issue, but this lip here, where the outer quarter panel attaches to the inner wheelhouse, again, this is an area pay special attention to. If you run your fingers along here, if you feel jagged metal, like there's a bit of jagged metal here, it's a telltale sign you've got issues. And this is a tricky repair as well. This, depending on the severity of it, can be very involved to repair. Again, depending on your skills and how nuts you are and what you want to do. So, and then we go on to the more obvious ones. We've got now again, we're working on the left side of the car. This applies to the other side as well. This area here, which is in the trunk wells, where the spare wheel is on the other side. This area as well, very vulnerable for rust. Drainage holes getting blocked, moisture build up, and then essentially rotting out. And in very extreme examples, you're going to start rotting the rear quarter. These panels are available. I bought mine some time ago now. I got these from MB Classic DE in Germany. This panel is for the driver's side because it's got the tow hook here, and this is a question of spot welding these guys in. It's not a terrible job, but again, it will require breaking the old one out, breaking the spot welds and welding that in. This panel cost about 80 bucks, and similar for the other side. Moving to the inside, this is quite an obvious one. You may even see people who have repaired it with fiberglass. You see those kind of repairs over the years. And also this reinforcement bracket, that is spot welded to that panel. Okay, so check that, because that's an area that moisture can sit and cause issues. Now, while we're in the trunk here, see this drainage pipe here? It leads all the way from the rear windshield on both sides down into the floor and out the bottom. Now, if these gets blocked, you can have issues of rust by these drain hole entrances, so that's something also you want to check for rust. It's sort of one that gets neglected, but you can see that from when you open the trunk. You could just actually just put your fingers around it and check. But again, see, on the extreme level, block drainage, water sitting by this seal here started to rot this out. So again, checking seals in conjunction with bodywork is advisable, because it just sits there, traps moisture and rots it out. This is a two-piece section here and on the inside, a fairly complex repair, so if you're not willing to do it, keep your eye out for that kind of stuff. Finishing up at the back here, checking both wells, both sides. This is one I put in already, and also this joint along here, all around this, the filler area here, check all along there. And also remove the rubber mat, make sure no moisture is wicked in from failed drainage lines and sat here on top of this panel here and rusted out, and then essentially wicked into the corners and then rotted out all the spot welds and causing you problems that way. A lot of this is just fairly logical. You've got to just kind of think where water would sit for long periods of time unattended. Also, up here, right in this area, there's a hole. Okay, I think it's there or there. I can't remember now. I think it might be there. But anyway, those are drain holes left over from the factory making process. Now, from my understanding, when this was zinced or whatever rust treatment, it needed a place to escape when it was being dipped and rolled through the dip treatment. Okay, so they had drainage holes deliberately there to allow the material to drip out. But they should have rubber bungs in them. Here's that drainage hole. I said that needs a plug in it, and this doesn't have one. And as you can see, moisture's collected around the windshield rubber and rotted through here. Again, this is a tricky repair here. Cutting this section out, and replacing it with fresh steel is not an easy repair. So if you see any problems in that area, again, it might be a deal breaker. If you look very carefully here, the metal is pitted to the point of penetration there as well. It's turned black here because I put some rust killer on there just for the time being. We're on the passenger side. I just wanted to show you where the floor pan is connected. Here, this is the trans tunnel, comes down, and there's a plate that let me see, I can see my fingers here. Just along there, there's spot welds all the way along there. There's our extension piece here. There's spot welds all along there that break. So essentially the trans tunnel has these kind of wings coming off. And then there's this box section here underneath both seats that needs the spot welds broken, and again, areas of concern. Oh, while we're in here, on the other side, it's a little far. See the bracket for the floor there? That's for the seat attachment. See up just above it and to the right. See, there's daylight through there. That's an inner rocker problem where it's rusted out through there, so all that's needing repaired. And also, as far as the bracket goes, that is an area that if water's gotten in, if those brackets start to get rusty, and then the bouncing of the seat up and down on rough roads or something, that bracket can fail and break through and tear the steel of the floor. So that's another little detail. As far as the inner it's difficult, you can't actually get in the car at the moment the way it's angled, but see in this area, in a rocker area there underneath the floor mat, so say that's the area you want to check. This is somewhere area you really want to pay close attention to, I think, on the 108, 109s, because this is a deal killer, I think, for a large portion of these cars that you should pay attention to. The rest of it, to be honest with you, I mean, fenders. I mean, thankfully, we're bolt-on fenders with this type of car, the 108, 109, 111s, 112s. As far as cost for those panels, I picked up those fenders for my 4.5 for around 45, 50 bucks a piece at a pick and pull. You know, a lot of other places are asking a lot more money, but that's not a deal breaker if you find one that's got some rusty fenders up front. What's happening behind those fenders is key. Doors even, you know, if you've got a rusty door, it's not the end of the world, you know. But again, what's further in? What's the door attached to? Inner rockers, outer rocker, but especially peel those carpets back. Again, I'm not going to tilt the car back now, but peeling the carpet back in this section, down here where all these sections are coming together in that corner, the rear seats here, and here's the rocker. In this corner, peel those carpets back. Have a good old look. Has moisture been sitting in there for a long time and not able to escape? You know, so that's something to look for. As far as this quarter panel, extremely expensive to find. Just people selling them on eBay. They are stupid money. That's why I've got a parts car to help me. This is off on the other side. Some of you probably know that, to help me repair this. But this is a tricky repair to do. There's no doubt about it. Takes a lot of thought, a lot of careful planning and approach and everything. Inner rocker wells, all that, as you know, I fabricated some of the inner rocker wells. That was tricky. So there are areas that really might be a deal breaker for you. Unless it's something extremely rare or you really want to take something on. People like to say, you know, all those 108s, 109s, those old Mercedes, they rust. Well, it has been around for nearly 55 years, so what do you expect? I see modern vehicles rusting, they've been on the road 10 years, so to that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please put down in the comments anything that I may have missed, or if you've got any other detailed questions. I love answering them. So I think that's it for this one. I'm going to do other things around the shop, and we are going to get back onto the videoing schedule. It's just been so warm here, and it's kind of a motivation killer coming out here in 100 degrees. It ain't happening. So now it's a little better today, so I felt like I could come out and start a video and prove that I'm still around. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit like, share, subscribe. There's a lot of people that watch the videos that don't subscribe. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it would be nice that I'm on the right path. And I will be doing another follow-up video of buyer's guide on these cars. Probably let's jump to say, I mean, you tell me what you want to see next. Let's go to the interior, maybe discuss interior options and problems that can occur and fixes. Because you might see something on this car, you might go, oh, that's terrible. It might not be a big deal. So anyway, take care, guys. I really appreciate all of your comments, all, you know, positive, negative, I don't care. So take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye-bye.